beautifully flowy and nice.
Aw,
And
thanks.
yeah, you perfectly have your headphones
watched
with
it
a
this
little
week.
headband. I know. Like I have teenagers at like that feral stage where it's like, well, maybe I'll shower eventually someday, or maybe I'll just rock dreadlocks until mom makes me shave my head.
Yeah.
I am not sure which. So
Yeah,
we
I
have
know.
that
It was
delightful.
truly the good old days when girls washed their hair on Saturday night.
Yeah, I never take her anywhere, so why shower is the complaint that I'm getting now from the
Well, maybe if she showered, you would take her somewhere. That's what you should tell her.
Okay, she left the room, but she's my one. She doesn't want to do anything. She's my like introvert, so that's totally bogus, but whatever. I mean, she's not my one that, wants to go and be around people. So she's very happy in her little den of a bedroom. So
I get it.
It's so weird how you can raise little humans in the same environment under the same circumstances, and they're so different. How are
It's
they
like
not?
they want to be their own person. It's nuts.
Yes. It's bizarre. So did you see what Rhonda put on your timeline, Tina?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
How come I didn't see it?
Jennifer, I don't want to spoil it for you. You will have to discover it later. But it's very much kind of a commentary on how Tina decides, as you're talking about your girly girls with their glitter and confetti hearts, and Tina's like, oh yeah, is that before or after they chopped his head off? It's like, what?
Is it on her timeline or is it on her author page? Because I can't
find
her
timeline.
On her personal timeline.
Why am I not seeing it?
I wanted everybody to see it.
I was able to see it. I'll tag you in it, Jennifer. How's that?
Okay. That would be great.
What
a day.
I had just read about that before, and it was one of those things where you just say what you're thinking.
No, you don't say. I mean, and this is why I think of you as like the Rose Nyland. It isn't because I don't like, they always treated her like she was like a dumb blonde, but that's not what it is. It's more about like, oh, this popped into my head, so I'm going to say it kind of a thing that you do, which is very awesome because that's what I like about improv comedy. I used to teach it in homeschool groups, and like, I feel like the human experience, God made us all so different and unique that if you just share your perspective, it's going to strike people as odd or different because it's just not where they're coming from,
Right.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, what a day, right, Jen? Your computer had to update right before we got on here.
Yeah, but here we are. And you couldn't hear me. And so, that would be, I'm not that good of a mime. So it would not have been entertaining. Well, I mean, it would probably have been a better postcast, but.
Oh,
I doubt that.
All right. Oh, I got to go to random.org. So fill time with witty banter while I do that.
Witty banter, witty banter, witty banter.
I'm feeling so not funny today. So, though I did remember another embarrassing moment of my life that I probably should share with you girls at some point, but not today because it will take a while. What is this? What is this with my hair?
Another symptom of today.
I know.
It's falling out.
Let's look at all the grays while we're waiting. Let's look at all there's one right there. You can totally see it on the camera.
I look like I have tinsel in my hair, so don't even.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I did put my name in first, I promise.
Sure, you say that every week.
But it came up Rhonda, Jen, Jamie, Tina. Tina, do you want to switch with me? I don't mind. I know you don't like to be last. You don't like, okay. All right, so I guess welcome to the Postcast, although we've been entertaining you for several minutes now. Officially welcome to the Postcast. And Rhonda is going to be the first person to go into the isolation chamber, where she will be silent while we critique a piece that she submitted to us before we came on the air. And this is not like the feedback that we give during the podcast. This is actual helpful critique of the piece. So, Rhonda, what do you want to say to us before you are silenced?
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't put my comments at the top like I did last week, but I'll remember that next week. All right, so this is, I have reread this scene about 40 times, And of course, to me, it sounds amazing and perfect. But so I know this isn't what will be published in a book, but I would like to know how close you guys think it is to being publishable. And I know Tom is just being introduced in this. So do I need more description? Because I'm kind of leaning that way. And then also on the back, I forgot to fill in his something ridiculous. So I'll just tell you right now that it was tentatively selling counterfeit Howdy Beauty dolls. So, okay.
So
fun.
I think your mic isn't down because when you turn, I can hear you clearly. And then is it down?
Oh, it's buried. Sorry.
Okay. And then so you're saying that what we're reading here is not going to be in the book. Is that what you just said?
No. It's going to be in the book. It's not going to be the final published, edited piece that goes in there.
Okay.
I just want to know how close it is to that.
Okay.
I've read that so many times. I'm just glad.
Gotcha. Been there.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. So she's silenced. Who's going first?
Well, with her saying that, I guess I have a couple questions then, like, are we going to already know who Kenny is? Or are we being introduced to both these guys at the same time? That would be my first question about that. But
do you feel like he needs to be introduced before this, or did you feel you got a good picture of him without that?
Well, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, probably doesn't need to be introduced before this. But it kind of felt when I was reading like I should already know who these people are.
So it didn't feel... Go ahead.
Which probably leads to the answer for her question of whether or not she needs more description. So probably a little bit more at the beginning of like who these people are. But yeah, I see what you're saying, Tina. All right, so let me start off with some bread. I like this. I really like these characters. I already like Tom. I already can't wait for him to be the knight in shining armor for Z. Like, I just am very excited about that. I did find it confusing though. So not just the fact that we don't know who he is and there's not enough description. Because I really like that she didn't start off with Tom was blah, 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 blah. Like, as far as like trying to give us so much information about what he looked like. And she just kind of filled those spots in as we went along. But there's some of it, I was super confused, especially the bottom of the first page, top of the second page. But because I was trying to figure out who was reading and who was talking. And part of the problem is that Tom doesn't speak at all. It's like, there's a paragraph of what's his name again?
Kenny
speaks. Then the next paragraph, I'm assuming, is Tom speaking because that's what you would do. But so then he says something about, and then when I realized it's not Tom, he's talking to Tom. Like, oh, wait a minute. So I'm like, okay, so she just needs to put those together. Then I go to the next one, and it's still Kenny talking. Those need to all be the same paragraph, or she needs to be putting some action or words from Tom so that it's not so confusing. Like, agreed. I thought after reading it, I thought they were both Marines because he's talking about thanks for your service. And the next line, the next paragraph, the guy's like saying, I'm glad you got rid of that high and tight, which I know exactly what that is because my husband was a Marine. So I get that. So I was like super confused there. So as far as description, I think a little bit more. I think I know who Tom is now, but I had to read this a couple times to figure out who was talking. And that just really is more about paragraph structure and making that all work for that. I loved the line, been sucking on a lemon coated with aspirin. So good. Like, because then it made me think, why is he making that face? And then you read on and you get it. I love that he uses Artie to do his vehicles because we had a discussion yesterday. That's another thing. And all right, so she already has something ridiculous, but I thought maybe she should do selling hairbrushes because I always thought that was the most ridiculous door-to-door sales thing ever. Is it just you could go around and sell hairbrushes, really? But I like her idea better. So, but overall, I like it. I'm really glad that this story isn't only going to be from Z's perspective; that we're also going to get the dude's perspective. I love it. So that's mine.
I have a lot of bread in that this was so clever. Just as Jen intimated, you learn a lot about our hero and things that make you like him and see that he's perfect for Z. For example, really being into this old house and really thinking about what a woman would want is going to be what would sell the house. Like that was great. Now we know Tom and are rooting for him. I'm with Jen, though, with the meat. It is very confusing. I've got exactly written in here, this should not be a new paragraph because it's a continuation of Kenny talking. Another thing that was confusing is there's head hopping because the story shifts focus and suddenly we're looking at everything from Tom's perspective. So I think the piece would be stronger if she picked a perspective and stuck with it. Either this scene is written from Tom's perspective or it's written from Kenny's perspective. That would help to really clarify everything. To finish it off with another piece of bread, I loved the reference to the new cologne that's out, even though it's old to us. English leather. Gosh, you're really putting us in a time space. I guess this is more or less a bread. I am really confused because I thought that they were still in high school. So I got really confused that these people were suddenly aged on me. So it may just be a continuation of reading because I thought that they were like a senior in high school situation from that first chapter where she's getting ready with her crinoline and all that stuff.
I think she is. He talks about how she was a freshman when he was a senior. And so that would make sense of how he's been through the Marine. But he wouldn't have been done with Marines yet, right? It depends. I guess I need a little more information about the time, right? Time period.
What I'm saying is I thought the story was taking place while they were both still in high school. So you're saying she still is in high school and he's not?
I think so.
Okay. Also, I don't know who Artie is. And so I was like, who's Artie and why do I care? Why does he need to be into this part of the story? I feel like if you don't need to introduce him or put him into this, take him out because this does not need to be this long for us to be in love with Tom. And in my opinion, taking stuff out always makes a piece stronger, but then that's because I am a kill your darlings kind of a person. So,
right.
Tina, did you get to say everything you need to say? Because I feel like you spoke very, very little compared to me.
Yeah, well, when she said what she wanted, it kind of threw me a little bit because then I was like, oh, we didn't already know who these people are? Because when I read it, I felt like I didn't feel like this was the introduction of these people, I guess is what I was trying to say. But I really liked the piece and I love Tom and I like the details about the house and the work that they're doing and how they're just having this like conversation while they're working. It's all very realistic and I can't wait to read the rest. So.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that we all three have said the same thing. She did a really good job of showing us who these people were just by what they did and what they were thinking. It was not a tell. So it's an excellent example of how you can tell us all about a character without telling us.
Exactly.
All right. We ready to let her out?
I am.
Yeah.
All right, Rhonda.
Okay. Thank you. You guys told me exactly what I needed to know. This is the first scene where you meet Kenny, like you hear his name at all. And so I'll need to introduce him a little bit better. And then also you hear a little bit about Tom in a scene before, but really it's really his real introduction. And then Artie is a very important character. So I did need to introduce him. Maybe I can do it in a different scene. But so anyway, this is a small town. Well, you already know that. Z is 21, 22-ish. I haven't really pinned down her age yet, but Nettie is a high school senior. And so maybe that's where that came from. But Z is old enough to have been taking some courses in college and being a librarian and that sort of thing. And that's why she's going to curate the museum. And then, so Tom is out of the Marines, freshly out of the Marines and all that. So that's the age for them.
Now listen, if Artie is a major player, don't take him out of here. You don't need, or don't introduce him somewhere else. I think that what Jamie was trying to say was that it was that if he was just you're just mentioning him for no reason, then take him out. But if he's gonna be a major player, then it's perfectly fine.
Okay. Did you get an idea of what he was? or just that they knew him, that he was someone in town? Or?
Yeah, totally. Got it. He's
Okay.
a former football player, and
Mhm.
he is the mechanic now. Yeah, well
Okay.
done.
It is really kind of where you start the head hopping too, because you start talking about how Tom knew him and Tom has opinions of him, Tom, but until that point, it's Kenny. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it just maybe was the launching into my confused world.
Mhm.
I'm not sure. So,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Did you know that when English leather came out, it was originally Russian leather?
What?
And then during the whole Cold War thing, they changed it to English. I
That's
just found out. My
hilarious.
dad's first bottle was Russian leather. So
Wow.
dating him, I guess.
Russian leather. Wow.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, you guys. That is extremely helpful. Exactly what I was looking for.
Awesome.
Okay. Who's next?
Jen.
All right, so same thing I've been looking for. I mean, I'm just still trudging through the edits of this, so I guess I'm just basically looking what I've been looking for. Like, is it ready? I don't know. I just want to hear what you have to say. I'm so tired of this.
Aww.
I love it, but I'm just like, I'm to the point. This part of the book, I'm just like, oh, let's get through it. So.
I know. I'm in the same boat, Jen. I hear ya. Okay, so into the isolation chamber. Who's got some feedback for us?
Well, I always do, but I also always go first on hers, so I don't want to take the stage.
Let's stick with what works.
Okay. So I'm just going to go down then and go through my highlights. Okay. What? When he says, now what makes you think I was talking about Will? Why wouldn't he be? Okay. I highlighted, I probably didn't have to highlight this, but a little further down, why wouldn't she, if it's a small church and not really a missionary town, but, you know, a tiny plant, that wouldn't be unusual for a preacher to do song leading as well as, well, maybe not the piano playing, but anyway, I was just thinking missionary service, that would be typical. But anyway, It Is Well With My Soul is my favorite of all hymns ever. So I was all about everything. And her comments about it, her playing it, that made me like Phoebe more. You know, I'm not a huge Phoebe fan, but that brought her a little bit to me. I can hardly even say the title of the song without crying. And that's a legitimate cry. That's not an angry cry. She's got an upper peninsula that's not capitalized. All right, on the back of the second page, I know you told me not to come, but I had to, Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I love that show of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
This whole part right here made me appreciate Phoebe more than I have in anything else that I've read with her in it. Let's see.
Which is interesting too, because like she's done a really good job with making these sisters each be individual people.
Yes.
And you have to like them all in a different way, because you can't like Phoebe the same way you like Sarah, or you know what I'm saying? And that's really tricky to do, because I mean, she's complimented me before on characterization, and I think that she deserves a little bit of kudos herself, because sisters are not going to be carbon copies of one another, and to be able to create 4 sisters that we all want to root for and like is really a trick.
Yeah. Let's see, on the third page she had okay. So last week we were saying that the Spears family, they were just kind of you know, like they were just neighbors or whatever. I think she did a great job in making us like them. One line is, but the rise showed they were not sure who would come out the victor in that confrontation. I like that a lot, because I used to like put that kind of fear in my kids too. Let's see. Did you know you could eat those? Oh, I was just thinking that probably most people would know about eating weeds back in those days, but that's not even worth mentioning, even though I just did. Let's see. I thought the little girl who was so talkative was so cute.
Yeah, and to your eating weeds point, I think that was kind of more to show the child's personality of like, because I mean, I have a 10-year-old son who tells you the most obvious things in the world all the time.
Well, that's true.
Because he thinks he's discovered it. He thinks he knows something, you know, big deal. So.
Yeah. So that is my basic comments on this. liked it. I thought it cleared up a few things. And they like Phoebe.
Yeah, I like the Spears a lot better after this as well. I was almost hoping this was going to replace the dinner. Like, this is how she meets the Spears children. If she still does do the dinner, I think that she can make it much smaller because of all of this personality that she puts into this piece. What I was missing, which would be just like a wish list thing, would just be for one of those boys to be like, what about you? Do you have a bow? You know what I mean? So that you kind of get a hint that and then one of the brothers is like nudging him and, well, you were the one that told me to ask her or whatever, right? Like, I really wanted it to be one of them kind of having a little crush or just, being sweet on her or something. And she can be all like, aw, or whatever. That was something that I missed that I wanted. But again, wish list, the scene is fine without it. I really liked learning about the peanut chew candy because, I enjoy historical fiction. It's never been something that I read. But again, I'm always like, oh, wow, a novel that is teaching me things. So loved that. It's very much a mission accomplished sort of a situation. You have to get from A to B when you start a chapter and it's done, right? I would be curious to hear what the rest of you say about this long, drawn out, is it will, isn't it will sort of a thing. Because I don't read romance. I don't know how much mileage you can get out of who is that constable kind of a thing. And so I just would like other people to tell or talk about, is it enough? Is she maintaining believability with all of this drawn out? Well, the secret is that the constable is Will. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, is it really going to work for this long? Or does she need to not mention him quite so much so that you have a little bit of time to forget that plot line is also woven throughout there? As someone who doesn't read romance, I need your feedback on that.
I'm going to say that I haven't reached the point where it's too much yet. I don't know where that point would be, but it's not there yet for me.
Great. Awesome. But
I kind of have that same feeling a little bit of that question you just asked. And I guess my answer would be, if she's going to continue to do that, it would, after this point, probably be too much. But if she intends to bring him into the story next, then that wouldn't be.
Well, and
that's
I think
my opinion.
Yes, and I think it's important to point out that neither you nor I would be looking for a romance to read. And so we're not really, we might have a different expectation. We might just be like, go get on with it already. But someone who really likes to revel in the deliciousness of, ooh, they're kept apart would maybe appreciate it a lot more than we would. So that's why, But yeah, I mean, I have great things to say about this. Writing's good, whatever. You have more to say about it, Tina?
Well, just that I loved this scene. I loved the kids. They were awesome. And I did like the near misses of Will. Mm-hmm. I mean, we all know that's who he is. Mm-hmm. Nobody's being fooled here but Phoebe. So yeah, it was just like kind of delicious that he was like showing up and then running off.
Well, and I think that what's destroyed for us is like we knew it was him from the very first mention of him, whereas a reader new to the book would be still like, so it would maybe be confirmed by this point that yes, this must be what is going on. And so maybe it wouldn't feel as tired to a new person to the story, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's also something that has to be taken into consideration going forward. So sorry, Tina, anything else?
No, I just really liked it. I had a hard time finding any meat. So yeah, mission accomplished, like Jamie said.
All right, should we bring her out? Guns a-blazing? Coming out, Jen.
All right, that was great. Thank you, guys. I really, really appreciate that. So backing up, the leading the music thing, think about, she did not come from a church like that. So it's catching her off guard and she's just letting it stress her out. So she's absolutely able to do that. And she's going to do that in her mind until like there's a solution that shows up. And then she's like, oh, thank you, Lord. So, I mean, that was kind of what I was trying to do. I'm just trying to like be inside the mind of a person that would have grown up in a city church. And then all of a sudden she's plunked down in a country church, which I would have been used to, because I've been to like lots of different churches. But I can't believe I missed that capitalization of Upper Peninsula. I will take care of that. The crush on Phoebe, that's a cute idea. And if I didn't have so many words already, I might actually explore that. So we'll see in the final edit. Huh?
Take some other ones out. I love that idea.
And that is a really cute idea because I do like these kids. And then the is it or isn't it Will? That's something I've struggled with too because I don't want to dangle it in front of people for too long. Because and it also has to be believable that she wouldn't start thinking, is it Will? But you gotta imagine, like, she's not realizing that her life's a love story. We know that it's a romance novel, so we know that it's him. Where her and her life, she's just living her life. And of all the places in all of Michigan that he could have been, stationed, how in the world would he be stationed in this little podunk, town that she's been put in? So, but don't worry, never fear. I'm not dangling it for much longer. So everything you guys said, I think you'll be satisfied in the next couple submissions I give you. So
great.
So thank you. Appreciate it. That was great.
All right. So your back is feeling well fed?
Very well fed. Thank you.
All right. Well, it's my turn. So I just, it's the next part of the story. So do you still love me? And that's really all that I have to say. I am silenced.
So I don't know why she thinks we're not going to love her.
I know.
I tried reading through it again when she said that, and I was just like, I don't know, all right, I'll go first because I've been quiet for too long. I really love halfway down the first page. Its expression was every bit the picture of concentration. And here's why I love this. I'm sick and tired of reading things that people write and say, he concentrated on it. Or he thought hard. Don't tell me that. Show me that. And even though she actually is kind of telling us, she does it in a way that is just so because you can't head hop. So we are not inside this other child's head. We are only inside Millicent's head. And the fact that she's able to tell us what this child is thinking without saying what the child's thinking, because that would be head hopping. I just thought that was very well done. Just simple, a quick little line. It might be missed by a lot of people, but I love that. I loved, and the other bread I have, because I don't really have much meat, I love the description she uses. She starts to bring up again the accident with little Mikey. We still don't know if she did it or not. And I love that. I think that's absolutely delicious that we as the reader do not know if she did that or not. And I love the humanness that she brings into Millicent by giving us the insight about her dead mother. I didn't know that. I knew there was a stepmom, but I didn't know that her mother was dead. About the why did I not? I thought I highlighted it. Her sitting there. Oh, here it is. Sitting on in an instant, she's back home, sitting on the little yellow sofa with the lady from the courtroom with the unbelieving eyes who asked so many questions about little Mikey's accident. Now just imagine a child being blamed or something. And maybe she did it, maybe she didn't, I don't know, but an adult just facing her, just the fear of that. And then to be able to tell by looking at her that she doesn't believe what she's saying, just the utter loneliness of that is just heart-wrenching. So yeah, I love every bit of this. Meat, Cap, I don't know. I don't have any meat. I'm sorry. I just really enjoyed it. Anyone else?
I loved everything about this. The child is making me a little uncomfortable. I was trying to get my mind about what it was that I was feeling about this child that we don't know if it's a girl or boy, and especially when it speaks. It just makes me feel uncomfortable, and that's not me. I think that's what she intends. I think that's the whole purpose of what she's writing about. So the fact that I'm feeling uncomfortable is probably going to make the ending that we've kind of gotten hints that it's going to be really creepy, going to be that much better. But like you, I had a really hard time finding any meat. I was sorry. I was sad when it was done because I want to know the next part.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay. Well, if you guys don't have meat, I've got some meat. And all it is that she didn't capitalize Millicent 2 times. And that is literally my only meat. Okay.
Oh my gosh. And I missed that. I was so into the story. I absolutely missed it.
I know. Okay, so the descriptions in this are amazing. I mean, I was just so engrossed in this. Okay, so the first line, she realized her heart was beating fast. I was already hooked. Is this emotion? Because she doesn't feel emotions the way normal people do, right? So is it anxiety? What is happening? Why is her heart beating fast? Is it just simply because of the creepy shed? That anyway, I was hooked right away. I just was just hoping for no rabbits, and I didn't get those. So I was able to read this just completely. I read it a couple times, not because I needed more understanding, but just because the way she described things, especially at like this area of the first page, the descriptions was just amazing. I just cannot quit going on about that. And then the bottom of the second page, more. Just the descriptions are fantastic. And I don't know if it's because she did so much showing, I just wasn't taken out of the scene at any point, or if she just was speaking my language. I don't know. On the last page, I don't know if she's described Edna or not, but I'm really hoping this is like Edna Garrett, because that is what I pictured for her. She's the lady from
Facts of Life.
Facts of Life. Yeah. So her description of the camp director, he sounds
Spot
like
on.
such a creepy, just jerk. I can't. All I can just continue saying is this was fantastic. I am not a horror or a thriller reader, but this was fantastic. And I'll stop because that's my only word. Is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to let her out?
Yes.
All right, come on, Jamie.
What can I say but like thank you for all the awesome encouragement. Like that is so good to hear. Why I was worried that you would not like me is because Rhonda got really uncomfortable about the dead rabbit, and I'm like, maybe this is not going to be anything that she would ever want to read or something, and maybe she would just be like, no, or whatever. So it's really good to hear that you guys appreciated it. So I mean, there's really not a whole lot more to say. Thanks for the proofready stuff. Yeah, like not capitalizing. Millicent, I hope I will catch that later. It's difficult because I was kind of more, I don't know, feeling not time spendy on the editing of this. But I can't say anything more than thank you so much for that awesome feedback. And I'm really glad that the describing and stuff worked and I'm glad that Tina is uncomfortable by the child. Yes, that is, you are at this point are supposed to be like, I'm just really not sure about this kid. And so I really hope that the ending packs the same wallop because, the story goes in a direction that I don't know how people are going to feel about it, whatever. But Tina, did you recognize this plot line at all? Because this story was inspired by a story you've told a couple of times in my presence where you had to make breakfast for 150 Girl Scouts or something like that. Isn't that you that tells that story? Who was it that's telling me that the cook quit? Oh my goodness, it was not you. It was my friend Edie. I'm going to have to reach out to her. But I thought it was you, Bambina. So my friend, she likes to tell this story where the director quit or was fired or whatever, and it was her and her friend had to feed 150 Girl Scouts at the drop of a hat. And so that's where this story came from. So Rats, I thought I was going to make you really happy. And it's not you, it's another friend.
Well, that wasn't me, thank goodness.
So maybe
I would not want to be in that position.
Yeah, maybe I will have to make her a beta reader for this story. So anyway, thanks you guys. That's really good to hear. I'm glad you loved it.
Awesome.
Speaking of loving it, it's time to do Tina's story.
Oh no. I didn't put anything on there about my expectations of what I wanted, but I kind of got inspired to write this. I wasn't planning it. It just happened, and I can't get it out of my head, so I started writing it. And I just want to know, do you care enough to know what happens next or to hear their story? So that's about it. Reading.
All right. Answer yes. Next.
Yeah. Yes. I'm done.
Yeah, right. Let me show you my notes. I'm gonna show you all of my notes. So just sit back and relax and prepare. Ready?
Oh, I can't read it.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh.
Like, just I have nothing else. I read through this, so good, so clean and edited. First of all, kudos to the writer. But just so well done that, like, I love these characters. I can't wait to read more. I am already crying about where's his name again? Like, I literally got emotional about the youngest one, and I don't even know what happens, but like, I just have this feeling like I already love this kid, just so well done. I can't wait for her to continue writing this, and I'm looking forward to it. So yes is my answer.
Yep.
Yeah, I have an emphatic yes to her question also. Yes, you care about them right away. In fact, I know that the writer has shared with me a little bit of like, well, I'm going to be dealing with a multiracial relationship or something like, is that, and the thing for me is like, that's why I care. Like, that was like a hook for me. Like, oh my goodness, not only is she in love during the time of the Civil War, but the person that she is in love with, like, that just added another layer of drama for me. So for her to have any hesitation to delve into that topic or whatever is ridiculous, because I feel like that kind of makes me care and want to know more. I do have some meat. I felt like the first chunk above the dotted lines, I wrote love that whole first chunk. And then I felt like when I got into the second chunk, I was like, because there was a little bit of disjointedness happening. For example, if she moved, that he knew he could find a gun more to the bottom of that paragraph. So Tobias's heart ached when he saw the unspoken plea in Anna's eyes. I would like that whole paragraph to be about his love for Anna and his disappointment at leaving her behind. I don't want him thinking yet about he knew he could find a gun. It took me right out. So so then move on after that paragraph to him going and looking for the gun or whatever. So in other words, it's just a little bit of structure finessing that could happen in the second portion that would help me to be there. Okay. But that was when I got my big, oh my goodness, this is what is happening. Now, as far as below the next set of asterisks, I felt that this could be so much more impactful if I had just even one other scene of the dad, that scene of the dad holding the papers while she's like, if I had that scene before I had her saying goodbye to all of her children, it would work so much better for me, because then I don't have to learn about how sweet the baby is as she's saying goodbye to him. I could already be attached to him before he comes up to her to say goodbye, mother. And then she doesn't have to tell me in this paragraph. Then I can just read about her heart breaking and her trying to hold in the tears if I already love him before this particular scene, right? So I think that would help the author. So this is why I'm sharing it, so that when she's figuring out what do I do now in the story, if she could go back and tell us once upon a time in this family, and now they have this day where she's sending all of her boys off to war. It's kind of just kind of a wish list sort of a thing. I like that we wonder about Celia and the dad, like, because he's kind of looking lecherously over at his house slave or whatever. But again, if she could talk about how her bed is cold, and I mean, like, if we had more before, so that we're really invested when she's standing there saying goodbye to the kids, this could be really a heart ripper. It's very close. For example, her men all look so handsome dressed in Confederate gray, but to Anne, the cloth seemed like a death shroud. So I might say something like, her men look so handsome, in her mind, they were already dressed for their funerals, or that was their funeral garb in her mind. Like, she, you know what I mean? So just a few little artful twists, and this could really rip your heart out. I mean, I'm invested with this already, which is why I have so much to say. Totally invested.
I would like to speak a little bit to the multiracial romance as well. Because this could be a historical novel, but there's clearly going to be a thread of romance in it. I mean, obviously the whole thing is about this couple. So there is a lot of chatter in romance circles that what is being sought by publishing houses, or what is like marketable would be the right word, is if you're doing an interracial romance, that the woman has to be of color and the man would be white. That's what, if you don't write that, you're not going to get a contract. But having said that, that's why we write, that's why we publish, self-publish, because there are audiences out there for this. And that's why we are Christians and we write Christian. Like, we write what God gives us. God gives us our stories. So I just want to encourage this author that don't listen to what they're saying out there in these circles, because this is the story God has given her. I think it's a very moving story already, and we only have 4 pages of it. I think, like you said, Jamie, I think that we're invested already, and I think that it really could be an impactful story. So I just don't want her to listen to any of that chatter, just to write the story that God gives her. I'm more than willing to help her guide it. Like, if I feel like that maybe it's getting too off of what she can sell, because again, there's a certain amount of writing to market that you need to do, because you need to get your story in people's hands, right? So write the story that God gives you, but then also make sure that the people can actually get that story. So, but I'm not concerned at this point. I think that this is very, not only is it going to be impactful, not only am I invested, I think it's very marketable, and I'm looking forward to her continuing this.
We haven't heard much from you, Rhonda. What have you got to say?
Yes, I have some things to say. Okay. Now, Jamie, what you were saying about it being the middle part being a little out of place, or could be put in a different spot. I kind of agree with that, but I like the way, okay, there's a date at the top of a couple of these. It felt to me sort of like it was living diary, sort of. And I know that's not what it's supposed to be, but that's just how it felt to me. Like pages of a diary just came alive. And so that middle part isn't that. But
well, just to be clear, it was more about the paragraph structure. It's not that I didn't like the middle part. It was just where he's talking about how he was so sad to leave Anna. And then he says he knew he could find a musket somewhere in the ditch. I'd rather have him talk about his musket in the ditch in the next paragraph. Yeah. But I totally need this middle section. Like, I was not saying.
Right. What I was going to say was that this doesn't have that same kind of diary feel. And I can't put my finger on why the first and last are different from the middle. But yeah, that information is so very important. And as a amateur historian, I love the couple details. The spot about finding a musket to use, because he wouldn't have been issued his own because he's not a soldier. And then a lot of soldiers had to bring their own weapons and clothing too. But for him to find a uniform or the jacket that wasn't too bloody or too shot up, loved it. Those are the kind of details that I want to read in this sort of thing. And
the people getting the body out of the tree.
Yeah.
It was like one sentence, but it was like, it got blown into a tree. Like, yeah, sorry.
From a cannonball or whatever. Yeah. Speaking of balls, muskets do use balls. So that is quite appropriate. You don't have to yell at it. And
that's not why she did it. You know.
I know. So I really don't have any meat except for the middle part being a little off from the other two. And I don't usually like books that go back and forth on the timeline, but this doesn't bother me. Actually, what this kind of reminded me of is when you're doing genealogy research, you get a piece here and then you get another piece of the puzzle from here, and they're not chronological. And that's sort of what this reminded me of. And it didn't bother me because I like finding out information piece by piece, but that's probably not how you want to write the book. But anyway, I absolutely expect another portion next week.
Oh my word. It's like such a potential for such a sweeping epic on par with, North and South or any of those others. I mean, it would really be it could be a really great read.
I think I understand the disconnect between the 3 sections, why the first and the last are different from the middle. the first and last are from Anne's perspective, and the middle part is Tobias. Now, so I actually have a suggestion. When I first started writing Phoebe's story, it was originally going to be completely from Phoebe's perspective. It wasn't until I realized it was going to be a series and I knew I needed to have more perspectives in the other stories and what there was going to happen in them that I started switching things up. I think that she might even find that this story is even more impactful if everything is written from Anne's perspective. And all we get about Tobias is the words he says out loud and his actions and like that, and everything has to be like kind of threaded through her mind and her perspective of it, which I think might make it more delicious, and how she as an author shows us how this romance comes about between these two very unlikely people. So it's just an idea, throwing it out there. It also would help for her to have to not worry too much about like vernacular, because if he is a slave, he would speak even if he's an educated slave, there would be some differences. And the words that come out of his mouth would be a lot easier than if you're inside the head of somebody that's been raised a slave. You would have to have the vernacular fit his upbringing, right? So it might make life easier for the reader to read, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? So just some suggestions, but I think that's probably the disconnect, is that she's writing from a different perspective and it just feels so different.
Yeah, I was going to maybe make a similar suggestion as to why it felt disconnected for Rhonda, but I do agree that it was like, okay, for example, it only had a few bullet holes in it. Otherwise, it seemed fairly new. Is not the same level of craft that was in that first. Mm-hmm. It just didn't feel as well crafted to me. Right. I mean, that sentence right there was not. It's really stuck out to me, like, you know, when I guess good enough, but the beginning was so artful. Yeah. Soon he was back among the smoke and the thunder of the canyons. Yes. The medics were pulling a body out of the trees. Yes. They looked at Tobias briefly, their empty eyes barely seeing him. They dumped the body, right? Mm-hmm. But then it only had a few bullet holes in it. Otherwise, it seemed fairly new, just kind of like, you know what I mean? And so I mean, maybe Jennifer is right. Like, instead of writing it from a different voice, you know, maybe just have these pieces for your benefit so that you know Tobias well enough to give us just glimpses of him.
Although I think that she would want to have some of his thoughts from the battlefield, though.
True. See, so that's where she has to make that decision. You're right. That would probably be something that.
Well, and also for me, I would personally, okay, it's kind of a lie because I am writing a book from like a guy's perspective and talking about how he loves a woman. But I feel like that kind of a thing is really a challenge to kind of carry through a whole book. So it might make it easier on her. Really interesting. Oh, and the blood of Celia cried out to him from the grave. Now you know that there's like, he's got a reason why he has to leave. Except again, I feel like it might deserve like its own paragraph, like more, right? All right. So I've had enough. I've said enough meat. But because I don't want to go away thinking I do not like this or do not have bread, because it's a big bunch of bread. And I like it so much that I want it to be the best that it can be.
Yeah, we're so invested in it already that we're like, it's like we're right. It's our story now.
Yeah.
Too, right? That's where we're at right now. Yeah. All right. We ready to let her out?
Yeah.
All right, Tina Bambina.
Okay, thanks, guys. I'm really glad that you like this story because I really like it myself. And I really did struggle with that paragraph from Tobias' point of view. I feel like that part of the story needs to be told in that spot, but I haven't had any inspiration for any other scenes in the rest of the stuff that I've been thinking about from his point of view. So I'm not sure how to go about. I really feel like the part of him going out to find a gun needs to be told. Like that section needs to be told. And especially that he's doing it because of what happened to Celie. But I think I'm just going to have to find a way to do it from Anne's point of view.
Can I just give you a bit of advice that to not try to force it. I mean, I think you're in this for the long haul, right? Like, I mean, I'm not thinking that this is short stories or whatever. I mean, I think because I'm reflecting back on when I was doing NaNoWriMo, just because the characters were rolling around in my head and just because the story, like things would come, right? I think the more you try to force it, the more you're going to have a problem trying for it to be authentic. Instead, write the story, and as Tobias becomes more real to you, things that happen to him will come pouring out, right? So I just would advise you against feeling pressure to hurry up and think of more Tobias scenes, like, because you can write it 6 weeks from now and realize it has to go, 20 pages back. There's no pressure. Just revel in it and marinate in the story,
Yeah, and at this point, I think I'm just going to leave that paragraph there and see how I feel about it when the story is done.
Mm-hmm.
And I go back for that second edit or whatever I do, and then if I have to do it from Anne's point of view, I'll find a way to do it. And if not, I'll just, tweak it so that we get more of his feelings for her, which will probably be more developed in my mind at that point. Because I haven't written the part yet where they actually fall in love. So I think I really feel in my heart that once that I get past that, it's going to be easier to go back and write from his point of view if I have to do that.
So how are you? Yeah, all of that. Yeah, I'm curious, how are you treating this in your, like, say, I know Jennifer has a bullet journal with all of this like mapped out. Is this just like, I'm going to spend 1,000 words a day writing on this? Or is this a project that like you want to shift and focus to once lost? Like, where is this in your timeline of duty, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I haven't put it in there because, first of all, I needed to know if anyone else felt that this was as good as I felt it was.
Yes.
Because, sometimes you just fall in love with your own writing and maybe nobody else cares, right?
But Tina,
So
I told you, a fraction of a percent of all of the people in the world. If it is chewing at you that bad that you have to write it, there are people out there who are going to want to read it. I wish you would just believe that about yourself, because if even all three of us said, this isn't really my thing, you should write it anyway, because you've been saying it's been nagging you and nagging you and nagging you. So I'm not saying that you shouldn't run it past us and see if it needs tweaking or something. But yes, people want to read your stories. There's people out there who need to read them. Sorry, I don't mean to lecture you.
That's okay. Well, I've actually been dreaming about it at night.
Wow.
So I already started a Scrivener document, and I have a whole bunch of postcards with just the ideas that pop in my head. I've just been adding these little post-it notes of ideas, and then I just have to decide what order they go in, I guess is what so I have a good 20 scenes already on the post-it cards that I haven't written yet.
Terrific.
So I feel like it's just going to come, and it doesn't feel like work.
And I love that. Isn't it great when writing is like that?
Yeah.
I wish that I would not have let my punk rock story fall victim to what everybody says everything has to be. Because to be honest, when you were talking so much about like what the hero's journey has to be, I started to look at my punk rock story and I'm like, well, this is kind of dystopian. Am I not going to be able to sell this unless I have this thing and this thing and this thing going on in my story? And it sucked the fun right out of writing that thing. And now I feel like I have to structure it. And now I feel like, and it's really depressing that I allowed that to happen. So I almost want to tell you, just write it and you know what I mean? Worry later about, adding something back to make it make sense. Like, don't start getting all in your head about what it should be or could be or needs to be.
Right. Exactly. But thanks, guys. I'm really feeling I'm not sure that if you guys had all hated it, it would have stopped me. But I feel really encouraged.
Oh, man. Be encouraged.
Thank you.
All right. We all feeling well fed?
Yeah.
Very much. Thank you, guys. And thanks for sharing your work. Like I was saying, how nice it is to sit down with your pieces of writing and have something fun and new to read and revisit people that I'm invested in and their stories. So thanks a bunch. And if you're a patron of ours, you need to spread the word and let people know what we have going on here so that they can also enjoy the sneak peek into what we're doing.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks for tuning in, and we hope to see you tonight, 9 p.m. for my release party.
Whoop,
And
whoop.
until then, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.